Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. In this video I'm going to work on these Ficus Philippinensis cuttings. And as you can see, they're almost all exactly the same size. That's because the cuttings were virtually the same size when I put them into the rooting medium, and they are all in the same size pot. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to get rid of the circling roots, because these guys have a huge amount of circling roots. And some have roots that I call escapees. And we'll get to them. So I'm going to take most of them, put them to the side, and then we'll work on them one at a time. You know, those guys really aren't out of the camera. But anyway, so here's number one. Escapee root that is about 2 feet long. And if that's about halfway to the ground. And if that sucker hits the ground, then it will begin to pump a huge amount of energy into this little tree. I'm not entirely sure I want that to happen. But that is one very sneaky way to get ficus trees to thicken up really quickly. They're not in the ground, but they're pretending they're in the ground. Just one root like that in the ground will cause the trees to grow so much more. Anyway, I'm taking him out, and then we're taking him out of the pot, and we're going to take all the circling roots that this tree has. And we're going to get rid of them. And even though it's the 2nd of March, you know, and I'm living zone 10, see here's the root that's circling. Now, I could potentially do it like that if I was putting it in a bigger pot, but I'm only going to put it into a 4-inch pot versus the little 3.5, so we're not talking about that much more room. So I'm going to take that off. And then I think most of the rest of the circling roots on this one are not that bad. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a root pruning this way. And many times people will say, oh, wait till, you know, the height of the summer to do this on ficus. And well, maybe if you live in zone 3, like Chicago. But here I am confident that I'm not going to get any problems at all doing it right now. So even though it's only going into the next size pot, I'm still going to add my soil into a little bit of a mound and place the tree so that the roots are feathered out the best I can get them. For me, working on the roots when the trees are this young means that I'm going to have much, much better nabari when they get older. Alright, so there's number one. Just randomly just going to pick them. Here's number two. No escapee roots, although there's some that are trying. So let's look at circling roots. So here we go, perfect example. Comes to the edge of the pot and then whoosh, starts to circle. Here's another one. Edge of the pot, starts to circle. So I want to cut those guys off. And the rest of them look okay. And give it a prune in this way. Back into a 4-inch pot. And these 4-inch pots are ancient. Oh my God, are they ancient. I'm going to put a little less soil because this guy's got a lot of lower roots, although I can still keep these upper roots. In fact, it needs to just go down all the way. I want the upper roots to remain as the main root system. All right, there's number 2. Number 3 is another classic example of circling roots. I mean, just look at them all, just circle, 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 circle. Even on the bottom, circling roots like crazy. So, cut those circling roots off. Give it a light root pruning that way. And I still want these surface roots that I've cut really drastically to be the root system of the tree. So it goes into a 4-inch pot, low enough so that those surface roots can still be covered in soil. All right, number 3. Number 4. And they're all basically the same. Once again, circling roots like absolutely crazy. This one's doing a 360, even more than 360. So I'm going to take him off. See what else we're up against here. Okay, not too bad. I need to move some of the roots out. So like, see, these 2 roots are parallel. And so when I pot it up, I'm going to take this root and move it off this way so it has a more radial root system. My pots aren't coming loose. Okay, here we go. A little bit on the bottom, and then take this root and hold it so that it's at a different angle while I add the rest of the soil. And this is really why I do this, and grow trees from cuttings or seed. And you know, I'm 68 years old, so am I going to see this thing be a 6-inch trunk and 2 feet across? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that I have to stop doing it. I love propagating. I love growing young trees. And here's another one. Circling roots. Ficus are just aggressive rooters. There's just no question about it. And I could see, you know, most of those surface roots, most of the circling roots are on the surface. So I said to myself, you know, I need to get to these guys. Now here's some roots that are way, way up above that are just too high. So I think I can just snap those guys off with my fingers. And then we have this root that's kind of going back up, so there we go. And you can see where the cutting was. So the cutting was this tall when I did this. Okay. Another 4-inch pot. Some nice fresh soil. Get the roots feathered out as best I can. And I like to cover all the roots up too, because over time the soil degrades and it will drop in the pot, and over time the roots will get thicker, and so eventually they'll become back to the surface. I don't have to worry about keeping them at the surface. Alright, so where are we at? Number 6. Now this is an escapee, another escapee root that is nowhere near as long as the other one. And once again, you can see the cutting. In fact, I'm going to chop that little knob off. Right there. Okay. Take that circling root out of there. And these are very wet only because they got watered really well yesterday. Okay. And then do the reverse barber. Right? What do you do when you go to the barber? You say a little off the top. When you root prune a bonsai, it's a little off the bottom. And we have our little larger pot. 2 came together, so there we go. Some more soil. See, I had one root in here that was coming out and then it was twisting all the way around, even though it wasn't necessarily a circling root at the edge of the pot. It would have become a circling root, so I straightened that guy out. I know sometimes it's a little hard to see from the angle of the camera. And one more that also has an escapee root that is pretty long. It's pretty long. Easily 2 feet or more. Well on its way to hitting the ground. And this was a little bit taller cutting. There's the old cutting. And let's see what we're up against. Since this root is not only an escapee, it's also shooting up. So it's going to be really hard to get it in there, so I'm pretty confident that I can take it off completely. And there'll be plenty of other roots down here. Give it a little root prune. And I'm not really pruning any of the tops because it really doesn't need it. Ficus are just so resilient, such strong growers, especially now that it's warmed up. Now see, I have some more roots here that are also they're just too high. So he comes off too. And it's interesting because this is one of the tallest and largest, but it ended up with the smallest root ball. But I'm totally unconcerned when it comes to survival. It'll do just fine. And this is a perfect subject for getting my fingers up underneath like that. And you notice how the roots are now all feathered out all the way around. And then place it on the mound. And make sure those roots are all covered up. They can get thicker by being exposed to the surface at a later date. No need for it right now. So there we go. Ended up I had 7. Ficus Philippinensis cuttings. And these cuttings came from the banyan style Philippinensis that I have. And I'll leave a link to that video of taking that Philippinensis out of a 12 or 14 inch bullet pot, a mica bullet pot, which really I would use as more like a bunjin, and putting it into a 30-inch oval, and then taking all the aerial roots that were moving into the 12-inch pot and spreading them out and turning it into a banyan. That tree is also within a few weeks of also being worked. It's growing beautifully, but it definitely needs a major reduction, whereas these guys didn't get any reduction, you know, as far as like chop like that, chop. So there you go. Ficus, basically all ficus, and oh man, who knows how many varieties of ficus there are, species of ficus. I have about 6 or 8 myself. They're tough plants. Even though it's the 2nd of March, we've warmed up beautifully. This will only increase their growth. And I fully expect within a few months that the roots that move out from where I cut will hit this pot, and then they'll begin to circle. And then I'll put it into the next size pot, like something like this, which is like a 4.5, 5. You know, the size of the pots. There's hundreds of manufacturers of pots, and none of them are exactly the same. They all have their own molds, and they all have just a little bit different style. So anyway, there you go, Ficus Philippinensis. So thanks for watching. If you're subscribed, and you can hit the notification bell. If you haven't subscribed yet, then you can watch these guys continue to develop. My plan is to get these guys as thick as I can, as soon as I can. But even at this early stage, they still need some pot growth. I will probably do another uppotting to something like this, or maybe even I'm reaching to get it a 6-inch. So let's move it on down the line. Okay, so a 6-inch. And then from here, they can go into a much bigger pot or even into the ground. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Philippinensis are a rampant grower, that's for sure. And I'll see you in the next video.